So are you looking for tips to save money at Disney? Today I am joined by Disney expert Joe Chung, and he's going to give you some of his best tips when it comes to Disney. Hey everybody, I'm Waller's Wallet. On this channel, I focus on credit cards, credit card rewards, and showing how you can use your points and miles to travel for less. So if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing and turn the bell notification on as well. Now Disney is a great place that many people would love to visit, but it can be quite expensive to visit. Luckily, there are some tips and tricks with credit card rewards and other methods to really helping you reduce the pain of paying for Disney. Joe, thank you for coming on, man. How you doing?
Good, thanks for having me.
Of course. For those of you who don't know Joe, Joe is half the duo of the Saverosity Observation Deck team of his podcast. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do. He puts out some great content over there. He writes for Travel Dads. He writes for his own blog as Joe's Flies. Did I miss anything, Joe? I think you write for a couple Disney blogs too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll freelance here and there, and I also have a Disney podcast called Disney Deciphered, which isn't really miles and points focused. It's just kind of general tips for, it's kind of geared towards newcomers who are interested in going to Disney.
So if you are someone who's new and looking to go to Disney, be sure to check that out. I'll make sure to link all of his contacts down in the description as well. Be sure to check Joe out. Joe puts out some amazing content. I guess we'll start off with, park tickets are quite expensive. I think I read a couple months ago Disney even increased the park tickets recently. What's like your best tips to save money on those tickets? Because they're just so expensive now for families to visit.
Yeah, let me start by saying this caveat. You can use miles and points to slightly defray the cost of Disney, but the saying goes, the mouse knows his math. So, you can save some money, but you're not going to be hacking it like you can. You are not even going to get as much value as you would as like redeeming your miles for a first class ticket. So I just don't want anyone to have any kind of false hope there. But you can save some money with miles and points. And talking about park tickets, the first thing I'll say, it's not really a tip, but it's something that people need to know. Disney will not offer any discounts on any park tickets that are less than 2 days. So if you buy a one-day ticket or a 2-day ticket, that's kind of how they make their money. Like you're in town for a conference or something like that, 1-day ticket, 2-day ticket, it's going to be, not discounted at all. Because there are websites like Undercover Tourist and Getaway Today, they will offer discounted tickets once you start getting to like 3, 4, up to 10 days. And we're not talking huge discounts, but on a 6-day ticket, maybe you can save like $15 per person, which for a family of 4, $60. Yeah, it's not a ton of money, but it is enough for a meal. The first thing I would say is when you go to Disney World, if you can, go for extra time because you're going to be able to save money on tickets that way. Speaking of Undercover Tourist and Getaway Today, when we're talking about miles and points, it's not the sexiest use of your miles and points, but if you have, say, the Barclays Arrival Plus card or the regular Barclays Arrival, really, or the Capital One Venture card, if you buy your tickets through Undercover Tourist or Getaway Today or a lot of sites like that, those are two I know work for sure, then you can then they code as travel and you can apply your miles to that. So that's kind of a simple way. If you kind of want to get a little deeper into the weeds, if you have Citi Thank You points, especially with the Thank You Premier card or Citi National Bank Crystal Visa Infinite card, the Thank You Premier card can get you 1.25 cents per point. The CNB Crystal Infinite can get you about 1.3 cents per point. If you call their cruises and tours department, they can book Disney World tickets. It's weird. Cruises and tours. You wouldn't think that. But if you ask for the cruises and tours department, it's through Connections and Travel. Sometimes you have to get an agent who knows what they're doing, but I've had pretty good luck. And so then you can buy those tickets and then you can apply your points to that. So if you are earning thank you points at a very cheap rate, then you can save a lot of money that way, redeeming them at 1.25 cents per point. I've done that for Disney cruises, and I did that. They used to be able to do that with Chase Ultimate Rewards at 1.5 cents a point, but they took that away. And also the US Bank Altitude Rewards, which I know you like, that works as well, but it's kind of like the same thing because you're redeeming the same price. You're not getting any extra value out of that.
Do you recommend, I've had this conversation with other people before, like, do you recommend staying on the park or off site? Because it seems to be pretty hard to use your points on site, but there's a good opportunity to stay off site. Any tips to help reduce cost either way?
Yeah, so we did an entire episode on whether you should stay on site or off site. And so, I don't mean to like plug that, but it's like 20 minutes long.
No, absolutely.
It's a long discussion. Yeah, I would say that You're inside the Disney bubble. Some people don't like when you leave Disney World, all of a sudden, like it feels like the real world. Like a lot of people go to Disney World, just for the magic, for like kind of
Right.
that year of, it's I always joke that Disney World is like Las Vegas, but for kids, and some adults. It's just kind of like
Right.
selling this different lifestyle, or you feel like you're in a different place. On site will keep
Right.
you within that bubble. You get free transportation from the airport if you like that.
Okay.
And then a big thing for people who like rides is you get extra magic hours, which means you can either get in early to the park or late to the park. I mean, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is really big right now. They're going to
Right.
start extra magic hours at like 6 a.m. This fall, for
Okay.
example. So, people can get to Star Wars. For
Okay.
offsite, obviously you save a ton of money. I stayed at the Hyatt Place Lake Buena Vista. That's
Okay.
only 12,000 Hyatt points, but there's a lot of other Hyatts. I think the Hyatt Place at the airport is only 5,000, but that's like a half an hour drive. I stayed at the
Okay.
Hyatt Place by Universal before. That was 8,000 points. So there's a lot of Hyatts, there's a lot of Hiltons. Like there's a ton. Whatever hotel chain you're loyal to, they have a footprint there. And so staying offsite, you can save money. Even if like you say want to stay at the Four Seasons, like a lot of
Okay.
times you can stay at the Four Seasons for the amount of money that you'd stay at a Disney Deluxe property, which is their like fanciest properties. But the
Yeah.
Four Seasons is going to be nicer. Or, I went to a conference at the JW Marriott
Okay.
/ Ritz Carlton. It's all in one thing. And so
Yep.
it's really good. So what it boils down to, like when you have young kids like me, sometimes
Yep.
it's easier to pay the extra premium to stay in Disney because you don't have to worry about, if you don't have to worry about cars, you're not driving as much. Like kids still need to take a nap. It's easier to get back to the hotel. If you're like really rolling in money, you can stay
Yep.
within walking distance to one of the parks or like monorail. And so,
Right.
sometimes I think as my kids get older, we'll stay offsite more and more. In terms of saving money, you can actually use your miles and points to stay at Disney hotels. And once again, you're going to call this magical cruises and tours department. It makes no
Okay.
sense, right? Cruises and tours,
Right.
like why? But they do. So the nice thing about that is any discount you see online, any discount that you can get online, they can book it as long as you kind of walk them through how to find. Well, if they're good, they don't need you to walk them through it. But like sometimes I've had them to walk them through,
Okay.
this or that coupon. And I know people who have had like if you have an annual pass, you can get discounts on hotels. And I know people who have applied their annual pass discount through the cruises and tours department. And then again, you're redeeming your points at whatever rate you get, whether it's 1.25 through thing.
It seems like it comes with like it seems like staying on you might pay more of a premium, but that benefit, especially have how busy it can be to get those extra hours when there's lesser of crowds or fewer people, seems to be a pretty good benefit for people.
I think you just prepare yourself for a different experience whether you stay on site or off site. It's kind of weird. Like some guests who aren't like Disney fanatics will stay on site just for like the convenience and because they
Mhm.
have money. And
Right.
then others, so it's just one of those things. I think it's worth doing
Okay.
once. Like, I mean, if you have kids, if your son starts begging you to go or whatever, and you have to go down a couple times, like it's worth trying out once. And sometimes you can get some really good deals. Like, for example, this summer was like pretty soft, so they're offering like 30-40% off of rack rate. Sometimes
Oh wow.
you should sign up for all of their spam essentially because they will
Yeah.
sometimes send you deals or sometimes they'll be like come back 35% off, and those are individual, and those like
Wow.
again I know people who've been able to apply those to booking through the cruises and tours department. So
That's a pretty fantastic stack right there. I'm liking the city points on this right now. That's pretty awesome, just in general, because you have like the premier right now, which is like 60,000 points. So that's quite a bit of money off. So that's pretty awesome.
yeah, one thing I've always recommended to like beginners or people who are like, I just want some miles and points to help me like offset this cost to Disney because like they want to go next year.
Yeah.
And so I'll just be like, okay, then just grab a Barclays Arrival or Capital One Venture, grab one of those, grab a City Thank You Premier, times two if you can with your spouse, and
Yeah.
then build those points. Use the Barclays Arrival points for the tickets, and use the Thank You Premier to. I mean, there's lots of ways you can use them. You can use them for your
Yeah.
flights. I mean, they're more flexible, but for me, I still have that old school AT&T Access More 3X card, but I can
Yeah.
generate thank you points pretty quickly. And
Mhm.
so, I just use those. I've used it a lot on actually Disney Cruise, which is even more expensive, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I've heard the cruises are pretty good though. I have heard that they go all out for you.
Yes.
So eating at Disney, anytime I feel like I've gone to an amusement park, food is just crazy expensive, and I think Disney, I've been told, is no different. So what are some ways to save money at Disney? Is that Disney dining plan worth it, or is it better to buy groceries off site, bring them on, or anything along those lines?
Yeah, so I really like buying groceries off-site with like Amazon Prime Now or Instacart or whoever, like whether you're staying on-site or off-site, but
Mhm.
especially if you're staying on-site, like I'm like a fiend for Diet Coke. I mean, you can buy one of those souvenir mugs for $20 and refill it whenever you want, but only in the hotels. Any
Okay.
hotel, but like you can only fill in the hotels, not in the parks. And
Oh
so
wow.
I just generally use Amazon Prime Now or Instacart or wherever. Like if I'm on site, if you're on site, they'll charge you like a small premium, like $10 or something like that to get the
Right.
delivered to your place. But if you're there for like a few days, just what you save on soda, snacks, breakfast, especially if you have kids, like they're gonna
Yep.
want to eat breakfast. You just save enough money. You just save a lot of money that way. And if you feed your kids in the room, for example,
Mhm.
you can get to parks earlier, beat the crowds, all that. So I'm a really big fan of online grocery shopping and getting that shipped to the hotel and stuff like that. Other ways to save on dining is obviously, you can take that to the next level and pack your own sandwiches. Disney doesn't care. The only thing you're not allowed to bring food wise into Disney, besides alcohol,
Yep.
which you can buy in the parks, but besides alcohol, you can't bring in loose ice. People used to apparently bring in like those
Huh.
red wagons full of ice with like the drinks in it. So you're not allowed to do that. But
They don't let you do that anymore.
if you want to bring like your own sandwiches or whatever, you can obviously save a ton of money that way. One way
Yep.
that we like to save money is, we will essentially cut ourselves down to 2 meals a day. So
Okay.
maybe we'll like a huge breakfast at one of and we kind of double this up. There's like character meals, which are a
Mhm.
little more expensive, but you get to meet the characters there, so we don't have to wait in line later. So we'll eat
Right.
like a huge breakfast and then kind of just snack our way to dinner, or eat lunch a little early, like 10:30, 11, and then
Okay.
snack with dinner, stuff like that, or eat a huge lunch and not eat dinner. So, that's another way we
Yep.
do it. As long
Okay.
as your kids are young, we do a
Yep.
lot of sharing of meals, partially to save money, but partially because, we don't need to eat that much junk food. I
Fair
definitely
enough.
don't. I'm not as fit as you, bro. Um, so, and then the other on the dining plan, if you are not like eating like crazy, it is not
Mhm.
worth it. But there
Okay.
are times when it is worth it. And I know it'll take too long to spell it out, but the simplest way to say it is like this: for when you have to be on site to get the dining plan, and then you
Okay.
have to get the dining plan for everyone who's in your room. But let's
Oh
say
wow.
that I am going to Disney World, but my
Yep.
parents are coming along, and
Yep.
so five of us, my kids and me, and my wife, are in one room, but my parents are in another room. If they
Yep.
get the dining plan, they only have to pay for two people. But
Yep.
for the most part, it's getting a little finicky lately. There's this one restaurant that won't do this, but aside from that, pretty much
Yep.
every restaurant in Disney World, they'll let my parents use their dining plan to pay for me. Sometimes when you can do it with like multiple rooms, you can
Mhm.
go to the most expensive restaurants and use those dining credits in a way that's more efficient. You have to do the math. And another thing that I'll say, and you can, if you want to figure it out, you can connect the dots.
Okay.
But the dining plan has two types of credits. One
Yep.
is called a quick service credit, which is like you go to like a counter service, and then one's called a table service credit, which is like any
Okay.
restaurant where it's a buffet or they serve you or something like that.
Right.
Well, the the quick service credits differentiate between adults and kids, but the table service credit, the adults and kids all get pooled into one. And kids cost about 25%, last I checked, of the dining plan as the adults. So
Okay.
if you think about that and think about the fact that if you have two rooms,
Yep.
who you're going to put in what room, you can kind of think of a
You
way
can.
to save money on the dining plan. That's really the only way to actually save money. Connect those dots. You
Yeah.
can kind of come up with a way with to use the dining plan in a way that's beneficial for your family financially.
That's good information. That's good information. Connect those dots, everyone. Make sure you connect the dots, what Joe is telling you. I know you mentioned a couple credit cards, but like, what are the best credit cards to help people pay for Disney? So you said thank you points, Altitude Reserve, the C&B Visa card. And are there any other cards out there as well that maybe that could help and help overall reduce your cost?
Yeah, so like when I saw your question, when I think about what I'm paying at
Mhm.
Disney with, I'm always just thinking of like what's the best travel card or what's the best hotel card. If you're staying on site, you can charge everything to your hotel.
Okay.
Then you'll, basically, so like if you have City Prestige or Chase Sapphire Reserve, you're paying 3x at all your hotels. Like for
Okay.
all your hotel bills, so you can charge all your food there. But of course, now City Prestige is 5x on dining, so maybe you want to pay with your card. I'd say non-miles and points people like the Disney
Mhm.
credit card because you can get the $200.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's how I feel about it too. You just like you
There's
can get again, like just get the Barclays Arrival Plus. Even don't use it on your tickets. You're gonna get over $600 in value. Is just better than the 200 you'll get from the
right.
Chase Disney Visa. The only like thing that that card can give you that the Barclays can't is like there's one meet and greet in Epcot where you can meet a couple characters for free and get the picture for free, but I don't think that's worth the 40
Okay.
you're losing. And you can also get that if you have a Chase checking account and get the Disney
Okay.
debit card, which is free
Okay.
to get. So, I just called up and I was like, hey, I was wondering if I could like change my debit card to this one that has the Disney Castle on it. And they changed that. And then when I use that, I can use that for that meet and greet anyway, that photo op.
So when you're in the park, you can pretty much charge everything to your hotel room while you're in the park, or
Okay,
just at the
so remember
restaurant?
when I said Disney is like Vegas?
Yep.
And they like Vegas, no clocks, they want you to lose all sense of reality. Disney is the
Yep.
same way. You get these magic bands,
Yep.
okay, that they look like sort of like
Like
a
one of the
Fitbit.
those little slap brands, right?
Yeah, they're not slap bands, they actually like clip on.
Okay.
But there's like an RFID chip in there if you're
Okay.
staying on site. Essentially everything you buy, you just tap that on like the console, almost like
Okay.
mobile pay, and you
Yep.
type in your PIN number and you pay for that. So, just like Vegas, they give you chips so you don't know how much money you're using. Same way, this
Yep.
Magic Band, you just keep paying for that.
Just
Some
tap and
people,
go.
I don't recommend this, but some people don't even bring their wallets to the parks because they're like, I'm just gonna use my Magic
Oh.
Band. And you should
Yep.
still have a wallet in case there's like an emergency or something like that. But like, I rarely
Right.
take out my wallet because I'm just tapping my Magic Band all the time.
Good, smart move, Disney. It's like Vegas. You're right. It's Vegas for kids.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's Vegas for adults like me too. But
Yeah.
but see, I can't sell Vegas to the wife, but I can sell Disney. I mean, the type of characters you see walking around Vegas and the type of characters you see walking around Disney, Disney's a little family friendly, more family.
Yeah. So not all the characters have teeth when you're walking around there either. Um,
Yeah.
so, do you have any other recommendations or tips or hacks, anything like that would help people save in Disney? Like some of your top tips there?
Yeah, so, I think it's just a matter of picking and choosing what kind of vacation you want. Like if you want to have the magic, then you're just going to spend more. If you want to pay with that for miles and points, then, if you build up 100,000 thank you points, that's $1,250 worth of value that you can use for any of your Disney stuff. And, that's good. If
Yeah.
you want to maximize your money overall, or you have to, then stay off site. The first
Right.
time I went back after a long time, my parents were coming with us, and it was like $400 a night for us to get 2 rooms in a Disney hotel, or we could pay $100 a night for a 4 bedroom apartment. Like there's all these
Okay.
Airbnbs, or they don't even all go through Airbnb. They have like their own sites and stuff like that. There's all these apartments you can rent. Some of them even have like pools like attached to it. And so
Okay.
there's a lot of options, for any budget. Disney is definitely getting more expensive. I
Mhm.
think they're trying to pay off Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and so they've like been increasing prices and like crazy and stuff like that. But I mean, like they have all the Marvel stuff. They have this
Mhm.
new TV service they're coming out with. They're spending a lot of money, which means they're raising the prices. And
Right.
so I think you kind of have to be smart about it. That's
Okay.
why, I would say 3 years ago, if I was like, oh, use my thank you points to pay for Disney, like that's crazy. Like, why can't I just transfer them to Singapore Airlines or, somewhere
Right.
else we can get more value? But now I'm like, if we want to go to Disney, we just got to keep it simple. It's not like the biggest win, but it's still a win, right? It all adds up.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and then my last tip, this is not going to be like a money saving tip, but I think this is like a stress saving tip. So you always see at Disney the parents who are just like dragging their kids, who are like crying. They're like, they're like, this is for you, right? It's like they're going on like their 15th ride and they're like, this is for you, obviously
Yeah.
metaphorically. Um,
Yeah.
and there's this kind of fear, like if I've gone to Disney World, if I paid this much money, right? Like,
You got to do it
I
all.
want to maximize it. I want to make sure it's like the best possible experience. But especially if you have little
Absolutely.
kids, like you can't push them. You gotta go at like their own pace. You gotta go with what
Okay.
they enjoy. Like, one example: the first time I took my daughter back, I had Disney fanatics use things called touring plans, which is like this is the order that you go on the rides to like cut down the wait time as much as
Yep.
possible. And it's like you never stop. You go straight to your first ride. We were walking into the Magic Kingdom, and then Pluto was hanging out there, and Disney does this on purpose to slow people down. And my daughter was like, "Oh, I really want to take a picture with Pluto." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
We don't got time for that. We don't have time for that. We
yeah, we don't.
gotta
No, no, no. We gotta go. We
go.
gotta go Space Mountain this. No, but
Yeah.
you gotta go with what the kids do. And I don't know if you talked about it on your channel before, but it's like the sunk cost fallacy, right? Like you
Mhm.
spend all this money on Disney already. You going crazy isn't gonna get that money back. So you're not
Right.
gonna get more value out of it, regardless of what you do. Like you've spent that money already. So just enjoy it, especially if you're with your kids or with your partner or whoever. You got to go with, like, I'm a little crazy. Leslie, my Disney Decipher co-host, and I call it the forced march of happiness, where
Yep.
we force our kids to go from ride to ride to make them happy. But obviously that's tongue in cheek. You got to do what your kids want to do. If they want to stop, if they need to rest, don't feel the pressure. You've spent the money, yes, and it costs a lot of money, yes, but don't feel
Mhm.
the pressure. Don't make it worse. Don't compound that cost by like making your kids or your wife or your partner miserable when you're doing it. So it's not
I
a
think that is a
money saving
great
tip.
tip.
It is a family saving tip though. And
Yeah.
it's tough. I struggle with it sometimes, but in the end, my kids, when they get to do what they want to do, they're
Mhm.
gonna have a better time. They might want to spend all the time at the pool, by the way, and you're just gonna be
I think
steaming in
my
your
wife
head.
would
But
want to spend all the time at the pool. She's like a little fish, so she would love to spend all the time at the pool. So I know she wants to go to Disney. So these are some good tips I know I'll implement as well.
it's a fun trip to hack, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
maximizing stuff like that. So that's why there's a lot of travel hackers. The ones who are willing to spend the money there, they enjoy going there because it just really checks off those boxes in your brain of like maximizing and minimizing whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe, where can everyone find you at?
All right, so you can find me all over. You can find me tweeting on Twitter at AsTheJoeFlies. You can find me writing asthejoeflies.com. But related to this, a lot of non-miles and points stuff. But if you're looking to plan a trip to Disney, definitely check out our podcast, Disney Deciphered. That's supposed to help you simplify and lower your stress and lower the amount of money you spend on your Disney trips. And if you want to hear my miles and points musings and hear this guy, he's been on a couple times. You can check us out on the Saberosity Observation Deck. That's a Miles and Points podcast. I'm looking forward to all the negative comments about Disney.
I'm not sure what happened, but when editing this video, the end of this video, something happened with the audio and the video. But I wanted to thank Joe for coming on the channel. Joe is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Disney and everything Disney. So be sure to check out all the information he has. I will put all of his contacts as well as his channels down in the description below. Be sure to check those out. But my question for you is, what are some of the ways you've come up with to save money at Disney? Hey everybody, if you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you know somebody who might benefit from this video, feel free to share it with them. And if you want to help support the channel, a simple way is use links on the website or in the description below. And if you like learning about credit cards, points, miles, cashback, or just flat out traveling for less, consider the subscribe button down below. And until next time, safe travels and take care.